Open the gate. The words land before Maya Thompson finishes sliding the card receipt toward the elderly couple. The receipt stays under her fingers a moment longer than it needs to. She doesn't turn fully toward the voice. She only shifts her eyes. The bell above the door is still moving when Officer Ryan Dalton steps past it. Shoulders squared. Boots stopping at the edge of the dining floor. I need access to the kitchen. Maya straightens the receipt, sets it on the counter, and lets her hands fall to the stainless surface. Chairs behind her remain pulled out from lunch. Water glasses half full. Registers still lit from recent payments. She takes a half step sideways, not opening space. Just clearing the walkway enough to stand comfortably. Dalton taps the metal sign beside the counter. Employees only. 2 taps. Not loud. You're the owner. Yes. Maya answers. She adds nothing else. Dalton's eyes don't go to her face. They go toward the service window behind her. A stainless steel tray is still steaming from the last order. Condensation collecting along the rim. Anonymous complaint. Health issues. I'm conducting an inspection. Maya keeps both palms flat. What kind of complaint? That's not your concern. He shifts his stance forward. Not enough to enter her space. Just enough to shorten the distance. I need to see the kitchen. The storage room. And your employee records. A credit card machine beeps once. Timing out. Maya's hands move an inch away from the edge before settling again. If this is a health code issue, the city sends a health inspector. If it's labor, they send labor. You're the police. Do you have a warrant? Officer Dalton. Dalton doesn't answer immediately. I don't need one. Officer Aaron Blake enters behind him. Body cam angled slightly low. The strap not fully tightened. She pauses near the door, shifting her weight once before stopping again. The bell above her head rocks forward, then back, then stills. Dalton rests an elbow lightly on the counter, as if marking territory. His fingers hover near the latch of the small swinging gate dividing the front counter from the kitchen entry. Move aside, he says. We're not debating this. Maya inhales once. Quiet. Barely visible in her shoulders. I'm not refusing an inspection. I'm asking for the proper one. If you have a warrant, I will open the gate. No. The refusal falls sharp and flat. You're obstructing. Maya's thumb runs along the edge of the counter before lifting. I'm standing behind my own counter. Dalton taps the sign again. You're delaying an investigation. A customer across the room lowers a fork to a plate and sits still. Another turns slightly in their seat but doesn't rise. Blake's body cam catches their movement without adjusting focus. Maya repeats once. Evenly. You need a warrant to go past the counter. Dalton's jaw moves. A small shift. He steps closer. Boots scuffing lightly on tile. Relax and let me work. Maya moves her feet a fraction. Not forward. Not backward. Just settling. Warrant. Or consent. You don't have either. Dalton touches the latch with 2 fingers, not pulling. Just making contact. This is your last opportunity. Maya remains still. This counter is the boundary. She says. You can't pass without a warrant. Dalton finally looks at her name tag. A glance. You don't set the boundaries here. He presses the latch. The click is small. Recorded on both body cams. Open the gate. Maya places one hand on the hinged side of the counter. Steady. No. Dalton exhales. Then looks briefly over his shoulder at Blake. Stay there, he says. A command without volume. Without explanation. The bell above the door moves again as someone walks past outside. The sound hardly registers. Dalton's fingers tighten on the latch. Last time. He says, open it. Maya's voice stays level. Show me a warrant. Officer. Dalton steps half an inch closer. Move. The word hangs. Not emotional. Not loud. Just procedural. Like a step already entered into a log. Maya doesn't move. Blake adjusts her stance again. the body cam catching the space between all three of them. Counter. Latch. Gate. Dalton keeps his hand on the latch. Gate opens. He says, "A final instruction. Not a discussion. Subscribe to Power Abuse Stories, where records decide what authority won't." The dining room is quieter when Maya Thompson steps back from the counter to wipe a surface that didn't need wiping. The towel stays in her hand longer than necessary. The bell above the door is still. Chairs reset. The register screen has gone dark. The receipt from the last customer sits where she left it. The latch from earlier hasn't moved since the click. A patrol car rolls up outside again. Not fast. Not slow. Suspension shifts once. Settles. A shadow passes across the window before the boots arrive. Officer Ryan Dalton re-enters without pausing at the threshold. The bell makes a single short sound. Officer Aaron Blake follows. Bodycam recording. Timestamp blinking in the bottom corner. Dalton's steps hit tile. 3. Then 2. Then 1. Stopping where he had stood before. Kitchen. Not louder. Just earlier than expected. Maya sets the towel on the edge of the counter. Her hands stay on the stainless surface. Fingers spread lightly. Wrists straight. "Did you get a warrant?" Dalton doesn't answer. He looks toward the service window again. Then at the gate latch he touched earlier. His hand hovers near it. "I don't need one." Step aside. Maya doesn't move. "Nothing changed since your last visit." Dalton's jaw shifts. "You refused a lawful order." She shakes her head once. "I requested a warrant." "That's procedure." Blake stands a step behind. Feet angled differently. Body cam level now. Its LED blinks every second. Dalton presses his radio. Dispatch. Reattempting inspection. Civilian still not cooperating. Static. Then a voice. "Unit 421. No change in status. Prior request remains denied." Maya hears the wording. Dalton responds by adjusting his stance. "Nothing more." "Open the gate." "No." He lifts the latch halfway. "This isn't optional." She steps directly in front of the small opening. Shoulders square. "You're entering a non-public area. You need a warrant." A chair leg shifts lightly as someone stands near the door. A phone rises halfway. Blake's camera catches the movement. Dalton completes the lift of the latch. "I'm coming through." "You do not have consent." Dalton moves forward. He doesn't push hard. Just enough for the gate to swing in and for Maya to take a small step back. The movement is recorded. Her heel contacting the tile. One hand lifting briefly before returning to the counter. "You're obstructing." "I'm standing where I work." Dalton moves past her into the employee area. Blake hesitates at the threshold before following. Stepping over the line, separating public and non-public space. Dalton gestures toward the back. Storage. Walk in. Blake looks toward Maya once. Quickly. Then starts through the kitchen. Maya stays at the gate. Hand resting against the hinge. Not blocking. Not moving away. "You entered without a warrant." "I'm stating that for the record." Dalton doesn't acknowledge it. He scans the prep counters without stopping. Blake's camera records stainless surfaces. Organized shelves. The dated health certificate. And labeled storage containers. She opens the refrigerator door. Labeled pans. Covered trays. Temperatures marked. She keeps moving. Dalton raises his chin slightly. "Any issues?" "None observed." Quiet. Not defensive. Maya hears it. Dalton steps back toward the gate. Close enough that Maya adjusts her stance to keep space. "You made this difficult." She doesn't respond. Her foot shifts only enough to reclaim the tile he occupied. A tow truck rumbles past outside. Blake's camera picks up the vibration through the window. Dalton presses his radio. Dispatch. Inspection complete. Stand by. Maya keeps her hands visible near the counter. "You entered without a warrant?" That remains part of the record. Dalton looks at her. Briefly. "You'll get whatever paperwork is filed." He steps into the dining area. Blake follows. Her camera catches Maya still at the gate, towel folded beside her. The hinge slightly out of line from Dalton's entry. Dalton reaches the door. Let's go. Blake pauses half a second longer, then exits. The bell rings twice. Maya remains at the counter. She takes the towel, sets it once on the stainless surface, then lets her hands fall. Outside, the patrol car pulls away. Blake's bodycam timestamp climbs. Steady, unbroken. Maya looks at the gate latch. It's still open. She closes it with a single recorded click. The record continues. It doesn't need her to add anything else. The gate latch stays closed long after the patrol car leaves. Maya Thompson wipes the counter once more, folds the towel, and sets it beside the register. Blake's bodycam timestamp had shown 16 minutes since the second entry. She remembers the blinking LED more than any voice. The dining room is reset. Chairs aligned. Cups cleared. Card reader dark. The hinge on the gate remains slightly out of line from where Officer Ryan Dalton pushed through. Her phone vibrates. A bank alert. Nothing related to what happened. She leaves it on the counter. For several minutes, nothing moves. Outside, a cruiser rolls past, slows, and continues. A knock lands on the side door. Sergeant Laura Bennett stands there, notepad under one arm. Maya Thompson. Yes. Bennett steps inside, letting the door close behind her. I need a statement regarding the event earlier. Maya places both hands on the counter. I'll answer in my capacity as the owner. Bennett opens her notepad. Did Officer Dalton present a warrant? No. Did you give consent to enter the kitchen? No. Any emergency circumstance? No. Each answer is written on a separate line. Long pauses between pages. The refrigerator fan forms the background. Did he force the gate? He lifted the latch and pushed through. I was standing there. More writing. Was anything seized? No. Any search conducted? Officer Blake walked through the kitchen. It's on camera. Bennett taps the notepad once. I'll request the footage. This begins internal review. She leaves. The latch clicks after her. 3 days later, an email arrives from the city attorney's office. Notice of dismissal. Obstruction. Interference. Below it, a memorandum. Officer lacked warrant. Consent. Or exigent circumstances. The arrest appears retaliatory. Charges dismissed. Maya closes the message and returns to wiping the counter. Later that same afternoon, another email arrives. Body camera footage available. Case reference attached. She sits in the small office at the back of the restaurant. Lights off. Monitor on. Blake's camera loads. The gate. The latch. Dalton's hand on it. Maya stepping back. Stainless counters. Labeled containers. The refrigerator light. Every frame is clear. She watches the recording once, then closes the tab and turns off the monitor. A week later, Maya meets attorney Lauren Reed from a civil rights organization. They sit across a table with a laptop between them. Reed presses play. Both body cam angles run side by side. Dalton entering without a warrant. Maya asking twice. Blake searching the kitchen. The hinge shifting when the gate is pushed in. Reed marks times on a legal pad. She closes the laptop without adding commentary. We'll file. Reed says, tapping the top sheet once. The filing appears in federal court the following week. Thompson v. City of Minneapolis. Dalton. Blake. Patruzec. Shidoyu. S. C. Itenzyo by Bashasen. Claims. Fourth Amendment violation. Unlawful entry. Retaliatory arrest. False detention. And emotional distress. Another visit follows. A city investigator asks to sit at the corner table. I reviewed the footage. The investigator says, spreading forms on the table. Preliminary interview. Were you informed of a warrant being granted? No. Any emergency exception stated? No. Did you obstruct an inspection? I followed the required steps. They needed a warrant. I asked for one twice. He nods once. That matches the footage. He stacks the pages, aligns the edges, and returns them to a folder. This proceeds to administrative review. He leaves. Months later, the trial begins. A projector displays both body cam recordings. Dalton is lifting the latch. Maya stepping back. Blake is walking through the kitchen. Stainless counters. Dated certificate. Everything held on the screen in a fixed sequence. An expert in constitutional procedure identifies the relevant requirement. Non-public commercial areas require warrants unless consent or exigent conditions exist. Dalton testifies. Reed pauses the screen at the moment he claims probable cause. The timestamp remains unchanged. When the verdict arrives, Reed calls Maya. The jury returned judgment. 2 amounts are listed in the file. $2.3 million, compensatory $2.44 million, punitive total $4.7 million. Maya prints the judgment and places it beside the earlier dismissal notice. 1 week later, an internal bulletin circulates. Dalton, termination, Blake, suspension, mandatory Fourth Amendment retraining. A procedural memo follows. Supervisor approval required for any warrantless business entry. Body cam review required for every obstruction-coded arrest. And a quarterly audit scheduled for non-public entry incidents. At closing time, Maya wipes the counter again. Her staff repaired the hinge earlier. It closes evenly now. She tests it once, then lets it fall into place. She counts the register, logs out of the system, and checks the front door lock twice before leaving. In the weeks that follow, part of the civil judgment covers a small expansion. 2 additional staff positions are added from the surrounding blocks. A record request later arrives for the footage, referencing the case number printed on the judgment. The clip is released in full, matching the copy stored on the city's server. The record from earlier remains accessible through the same set of files. Body cam footage, dispatch logs, internal review documents, federal judgment, warrant notation, entry without consent, audit schedule attached. Everything was kept in the same order. This is Power Abuse Stories, where authority is measured by what the record shows.